Okay, so let's continue our analysis of the file, right? So I'm going to download the file. Everybody did that except me. And when the file downloads, I'm going to open it in Tableau. All right, and there it is. So the file I uploaded, at least I hope so, the TWBX, the package Tableau file, right? That brings the data together with the analysis. So all things that I did, essentially, are saved as, actions, right? My clicks, what I did, how I analyze the data. But the file also contains the Excel data. So I don't have to point Tableau file to the data source because data source is already included. Okay, so this is what we did, right? So a couple of things, couple of charts. One of them is breakdown. This is a bar chart, right? Breakdown of, I believe, quantities sold, right? By market, by category, and also by the customer segment, right? And another one is, we saw this picture, which is analysis of sales ordered by month, right? And also we separated them by the year, so each line represents a year. And what we saw was seasonality, right? We saw that the sales spiked in June, and then weirdly enough they go back down in July, right? Okay, so let's build a couple of more charts, okay? So I want to show you full functionality of Tableau. All right, so go ahead and create a new worksheet. So there is a button at the bottom, right? One of the three buttons we discussed. So far we're building charts, right? So create a new worksheet. And in this worksheet, I'm going to create, for example, let's say, highlight table, okay? So I want to take a look at the sales by the year and also by the month in each year, okay? So it's fairly simple to do. So year of the sales and the month of the sales, they're both included in order date, right? That's how we created the line chart in the previous class. So I'm going to go ahead and take the, where's my order date? Order date right here. I'm going to put it in rows, okay? And it gives me years, 13, 12, 13, 14, 15. And then I'm going to go ahead and take the order date as well and put it in columns. So I'm just kind of trying to create the blueprint for my future table, okay? But the one that I put in columns, I'm going to change into months, right? So if you position your mouse over the field, and you can see the small teeny tiny triangle on the left side, right? So click on the triangle, and I'm going to select months. So now the sales are going to be broken down by year, and within each year by the month, okay? And how do I add sales? Very simple. I just take the field from sales, from the measures, right? Drag it and drop into the table. Bam. Okay? Fairly straightforward. Yes. So let me do it again. Right? I'm going to go back, take the sales field and drop it right there in the bulk of the table. And it will basically populate, it will slice the sales by year, and then each year by the month, and on the intersection it will show me how much money in revenues and sales I generated for that year and for that month. Fairly straightforward, right? So this is a tabular summary. It's actually kind of a trivariate summary, right? Year is one variable, month is another variable, and sales, what I'm showing is the third one, right? The downside, as we discussed, of tables like this, especially if tables are large, is right now, for example, if I want to find out which month of what year was the most successful for me in terms of sales, it'll take me a while, right? I have to kind of scan the table line by line and try to find out what was going on, okay? I don't want this, right? I want to use 3 attentive attributes in order for my brain to kind of see it immediately, right? Color, that's what I'm going to use. So I want to color these numbers or these cells somehow by, let's do it by sales first, okay? So I'm going to pick up sales again and drop that on the top of the card that says sales, color. Bam. Well, what it will do basically, that's not very helpful, right? Kind of a little, it sucks a little, right? Because I understand that this is sequential coloring schema, right? From low saturation color to high saturation color. And I understand that kind of pale looking numbers represent low sales, darker numbers represent high sales, right? Yeah, but it's not really all that obvious, right? For me, which sales are high, which sales are low, right? Highest and lowest. So how about I'm going to color each cell. So for that, look what I'm going to do. There is a combo right there, drop-down menu, right, that says marks. And right now it says key. Key is in label, right? So there are different options, I mean, and we can explore them. For example, if I pick circle, what it does is it places the colored circle in the middle of the cell. That's also not very good, right? Kind of not a good looking thing. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and pick up the square. And what it will do, it will fill up the entire cell for me with a color. Now I can see probably a little better, right? Are you with me? Okay, cool. If you're going to fall behind, just let me know. Okay, I'm going to slow down a little. Well, if I don't like this coloring schema, I can change it, right? So, for example, how do you edit color? Well, I'm going to click on top of this card that says color, and there is a button, edit color, and it will show the window. Tableau has a lot of pre-built coloring schemas that they found are the most frequently used. Let me tell you that Tableau, what you see, the software, is the result of a lot of research, actually, okay? It's not like they threw a lot of random stuff at you and said, yeah, maybe users will like it. This is the result of meticulous research. What are the most popular coloring schemas, for example? What are the most popular chart types, okay? So some of the most popular coloring schemas or palettes, they built into their product. So if you click on the palette, you will see a lot of different options, okay? So let's go ahead and use the one that says green gold right there, okay? Bam. All right, so when I apply, now I can see a little bit better, right? Which years and months were high sales and which are low. So yellow color represents low sales, dark green color represents high sales, right? So I can see that at the beginning of the year 2012, especially, right, and 13, all of my colors were like yellow and yellow-green-ish, which represent low sales, right? And towards the end of 2012, this is when I started to accumulate high values of sales, right? And what else can I do? Well, right now it's the continuous gradient, right? So it goes from yellow to dark green continuously, right? Slowly changing the color. What I can do is this. I can go ahead and say, you know what, let's not use continuous gradient, but let's use step color. So in other words, sales from a certain range, they're going to be the same color, right? And then when we move to the next range, there's going to be a darker, greener color, etc. Okay? So I'll go ahead and click right here, step color, and you can see that now it's not a continuous gradient, it's like a collection of 5 colors right now, right? And they group together ranges, close ranges of sales, right? And let's create 6 steps, okay? And then when I say apply, now I can see kind of separation of low sales versus slightly higher sales more clearly, right? Okay. So let's do that. Let's see, what else can I do with this table? How about instead of coloring that by sales, I can keep the numbers. These numbers represent sales, right? I can keep the numbers for sales, but I can color it by profit, right? So this way, I can kind of simultaneously display. It's going to be a quarter-varied chart, right? Year, month, sales displayed as numbers, and colors represent profits, okay? So if I want to change that to profits, for example, I can do it really easily, right? So right now, and you can tell what's displayed, what's your coloring schema, right? by the icon, right? So right here, for example, it says that T, that means a marker, right, is sum of sales, and also color is the sum of sales, right? So if I go ahead and remove the sales from the color, yeah, and pick up the profit and drop it on the color, so right now it's going to be colored by the profit, right? And profit, actually, I can go ahead and remember we discussed divergent coloring schema, right? It's a neutral point in the middle, and if the numbers are positive, you're making profit. Then it's going to be blue, different saturation of blue, right? If you're losing money, then it's going to be orange, different saturations of orange. So I can go ahead and go to edit color, again, click on the color card and say edit colors. And here, if you look at the default palettes that Tableau provides, you see the one that says divergent. Let's see, where is that? Orange-blue divergent, right there. Okay, so then I apply that, and oh my God, looks like I'm losing money in a lot of cases, right? My sales were okay, right? They were kind of low or high or medium, right? But now I can see that in a lot of cases, my profit, well, actually, it's not losing, right? It's not losing money. My profit, you can see, range from like low profits to high profits. So a lot of my months in a lot of my years were not highly profitable, right? So I just wanted to illustrate that you can make this specific chart, table or summary, quarter varied, right? Okay, let's go back. I'm going to go back to, so I'm going to click several times undo and go back to displaying sales as numbers and also sales as colors. So this way it's a tri-varied chart, right? So this is a highlight table. We discussed it earlier, right? Highlight table basically the use of color helps you to highlight things that are high in value, low in value, or medium in value. So kind of by using the color, it draws your attention to the right places, right? If I unhighlight, not unhighlight, if I remove the numbers, it becomes a heat map, right? So how do I remove numbers? Very easy. Right now, numbers, you can see sum of sales. There is a letter T, icon right next to sum of sales, right? That's basically a marker, right? The number. So if I turn it off, on the top, there is a button that says T, right? I can go ahead and click it, and it removes all the numbers and leaves me only with colors. So by colors, I can see that these are my highest sales month, these are my lowest sales month, and everything else is kind of in between, okay? So I can easily go from highlight table to heat map. This is heat map, okay? No numbers, colors tell you where are the high areas and where are the low areas, and where is everything in between, okay? So let me turn back on the markers, okay? I'm going to make the table a little bit higher, a little bit, not higher, wider. Come on. Yeah, like that. Okay. Oh, you know, that may be too much. Oh, that's too little. Alright, let's go back. Okay, let me show you something else. Okay, I can go ahead and add, for example, such thing as category. Okay, so these are the general sales, right? Total sales. Okay, what if I want to see how the sales were unfolding by the category? So I'm going to take the Peel category and place it right next door to the year. Okay, before the year actually. So first, my data is sliced by the category, furniture, office supplies, and technology. Then each category is further sliced by the year, and also I'm slicing that by the month, right? So right now it looks like all of my 4 categories, they pretty much start off low, right? Yellow cells in the upper left portion of each of my table. And then they kind of all go to green towards the end, right? Towards the end of the year 2015. Here's what I can do to simplify this type of analysis, okay? I can sort of create, well, let me do it first and then you will see what I'm trying to do, okay? I'm going to take category and put it in this card right here that says filters, okay? So go ahead and drop it to the filters. And it should say, if it doesn't select all of them, then go ahead and click on all of them. Okay, display all. All right. And then I'm going to say apply. Okay. But here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to try and show the highlighter right here. Okay. So I don't think, yeah, show highlighter. So later on I'm going to apply filter, but that's going to be a different thing. For now, go ahead and say show highlighter. Okay. And it will display, well, this is called card as well, okay, right here. So here's what can happen. If you click on the search line, okay, it shows you all three categories. And look what I can do. As I scroll through them, I position the mouse over them, what it does, you can see, it leaves the one that you're pointing at, right, and the rest of them it kind of de-emphasizes, it's grayed out, okay, so you're looking at one category at a time, right. So here's my furniture. I can see a lot of yellow color at the beginning and kind of a few dark green at the end, right? So that's as far as sales go. Office supplies. Office supplies also doesn't look very promising in terms of sales, right? There is a lot of yellow color at the beginning and there are only few dark greens at the end. And technology is selling better, right? Because I see less of the yellow and more of the dark green, right? So out of these three categories, technology is probably selling the best. That's what I'm guessing, okay? So you can do this type of, well, it's called highlight, right? You can kind of help yourself to see the results of your analysis better by highlighting only certain thing and kind of de-emphasizing, graying out the rest of them, okay? All right, so this was the tabular summary, right? So let's go ahead and rename worksheet 3. Let's call it tabular sales summary. Okay. How are we doing so far? Yay? Okay. Well, let me show you an amazing thing. Okay. Kind of. So let's create another new visualization. Okay. So we're going to insert new worksheet. Remember about 15 minutes ago, 10 minutes ago, I told you that Tableau uses a lot of research and offers you a lot of one-click options, such as ability to pick the color palette, right? Color schema. Well, that is also the case with charts. Okay, so for example, let's say I want now to export geographically how my sales are looking, okay, for different countries. So I'll go ahead. Do you know how to select multiple things simultaneously, even if they're not together, like in Excel? Control, right? Same thing happens in Tableau. So I'm going to click on country, hold down Control button, and click on sales. All right. So I want to see sales by geography. Do you see in the upper right corner there is a button that says Show Me? Go ahead and click on this one. Okay. So what you will see actually is 3 columns and 8 rows of different charts, right? This is again the result of meticulous research that Tableau does with a lot of users, right? What charts are the most popular? And what you see are one-click options, essentially, okay? Those that are relevant with the ones, with the properties that you've selected. So right now, true or false, I selected one dimension and one measure, right? You remember what's the difference between measures and dimensions? Measures are numerical, dimensions are categorical. That's exactly right, okay? So Tableau says, okay, the user wants to see how certain data, which is categorical, country, right? It's a dimension. How the sales data, which is numerical, is distributed by categorical variable country. And then Tableau is smart enough to say, oh, look at the column. It's actually a list of countries, okay? So a few things that we can do. Let's actually click through some of them, okay? So the very first one. Those that you cannot do, they're grayed out. You can't even click on them, okay? So if you select categorical and numerical variable, then you cannot do, for example, this one, area chart, okay? It has to be timeline, numerical versus timeline. There is no such thing. That's why it's unhighlighted, okay? Let's see the first one. The first one is just basically tabular summary, right? Sales by country. That's probably not going to be very informative chart for us, right? And you can do this, right? Replace numbers with squares or rectangles. No, that's not good. This is actually a highlight table, right? One-click option. But do you see the one chart that is kind of highlighted by the Tableau, right? It's kind of in the, it has the borders around that. That's what Tableau advises you. It says, with the one that you've selected, with the things that you've selected right now, that's probably worked the best for you, my friend, okay? And if you click on that, it inserts the map, okay? Pretty cool. Well, let's go ahead and use this one. Since Tableau believes it's the best, let's go with it. So go ahead and click on Show Me Again to hide it, because we're done selecting the type of chart. And what's cool about that is that you can zoom in and zoom out, okay? So scroll with the mouse, you can zoom in and zoom out. You can search, for example, there is a search box right there. So if I want to find India, for example, all I do is type India, hit enter, and it will zoom in on the country that I'm looking for, okay? If you want to get back, then all you have to do is basically click on that button, right? It will zoom out and position in the default view. If you want to just pan around, click and move the map a little bit, then the bottom option right there, if you point the mouse to that, then there are 4 options inside of that, right? And one of them has this four-headed arrow, right? So you can move your map around in your in your view. Okay. All right. So this is a bubble map, right? Each country has a bubble in the middle of the country. And what do you think this bubble represents, if you would have to guess? Total sales for that country, right? I can manipulate bubble size. So if you click on the card size, there is a slider right there, right? So I can make bubbles larger, or I can make bubbles smaller, right? It's up to me, okay? Also, let's do this. True or false? A lot of countries are split, most probably countries, are split into the administrative subdivisions. Like in the United States, we call the administrative subdivisions what? States, right? There are 50 of them, last time I checked, right? So we can go ahead and add more details to our map. So I'm going to pick up from here, from the list of my dimensions, right? The field that says state, and just drop it into the map. Bam. Okay. So it will separate total sales for the country into the sales by the territory, by the administrative subdivision. Now looking at that, I can see that my bubbles probably are a little bit too much, right? I'm going to make them smaller, all right? Like this. Okay. And you know what? The bubble size represents the amount of sales, right? For that specific state and that specific country. How about I'm going to use the color to represent profit? What do you think I should do? Drop the profit on the top of color, right? See how simple it is to use Tableau. So I'm going to pick up profit and drop it in the color area, and bam. And note that it is using actually the divergent coloring schema as well, right? But it's not symmetric. Did you notice that it's not symmetric, right? The middle point of the divergent schema is kind of tilted towards the low end, right? So this neutral point, the gray band, right? Which represents zero profit. You see, Tableau is intelligent enough to recognize that, hey, well, we're talking about profit, right? And profit typically is measured in terms of, do you make money, or you're plus, right, above the zero, or do you lose money, you're below the zero. That's why basically it did not split the profit right in the middle, right? But it moved it to the zero and said, yeah, there is a small area where you lose money, negative profit, and there is like a whole lot of different gradations of blue where you're making money. Okay, maybe a lot, maybe not so much, but yeah, this range is much wider. Okay, so this way I can actually go ahead and see what's going on, right? So if I zoom into the United States, look what happens, right? It looks like in California, my sales are largest, right? Or at least trusting by the bubble size. My largest sale here in California, right? And also it's darkest blue in the United States, so California is good for both sales and also the most profitable, right? And this one I'm guessing is New York, right? If you position, yes, New York, Also high sales and high profits. Texas, amazingly enough, even though the sales are good, right, the bubble is big, but Texas is losing money, right? Make sense? Is that cool or what? Alright, so let's see how Europe is doing, right? I'm going to just pan around a little bit, zoom into the Europe and see what's going on. London is our best scoring probably country in Europe, right? The highest sales and also the profit is good, right? Then probably France. France has decent amount of sales and kind of sort of profit, decent profit. Then Germany, but there are some places where we're losing money, right? If you zoom in, France, for example, this one is what Ile-de-France. I don't even know what it is. It's probably one of their regions, right? So if you look in the south, right, there is Languedoc province, right, and they're losing sales, losing money, right? They do have sales, but it's not profitable. Okay. All right. So let's see what else. What else can we do with this? Yeah. Let's actually create even more filtering capability, literally filtering capability in this case. Okay. True or false? These bubbles represent total general sales across all categories, right? Yeah. Can I look at, for example, only furniture, how it breaks down in the United States or globally in any country, versus technology, versus office supplies? I should be able to do that, right? Okay, so let me go ahead and actually introduce the filtering capability. What we did in the previous one was kind of filter, but it was highlight, right? So it filters out one category and the rest of them is kind of unhighlights, right? So now what I'm going to do is introduce a true filter. So basically it separates only sales for furniture or only sales for technology, okay? And I want to do it by category. Let's do it by category again, okay? So I'm going to take the peel category right there, okay? And I'm going to drop it into the filters area, okay? And if they're not selected, then select them all, or just use all, okay? Oops. Yeah. And say apply, okay? And here is your filter. But right now, it kind of, in order to use the filter, what you have to do is go in and let's see, probably edit filter and then select the one that you need. That's not convenient, right? I want it to be shown over here, okay? Well, first of all, if I want to modify some things about my chart, I can do that. For example, this card right there, which gives me like, okay, if bubble is really big, then these are your cells. If it's smaller, then these are different cells. I don't find that very helpful. Can I get rid of that? Yeah. All you have to do really is point to the card that you want to hide, okay? And you will see in the upper right corner, there's going to be like teeny tiny triangle. Do you see it? In the upper right corner, there's going to be a teeny tiny triangle. So click on that, and if I don't want this thing to show, all I have to do is say hide it, and it will disappear, okay, from the view. So now what I'm going to do is show the filter in exactly this place, to the right from the map, okay? So I go to the filter and click on the triangle on the peel, okay? And I'm going to say show filter, just like that, okay? Bam. And the filter will show up. But right now it's a multiple check boxes, right? So if I unhighlight all of them, doesn't show anything, right? If I click furniture, shows me furniture only. If I unclick furniture and select office supplies, it shows me office supplies. But here's what I'm going to do. Are you familiar with the concept of radio buttons, or one option click kind of thing? Well, radio buttons, they're called radio buttons because if you imagine like switching programs on the radio, right? There are multiple buttons. You press one of them, everybody else is getting depressed, right? And only this button is being pressed, right? So you press another one, the first one pops out, right? And the next one pops in. So there is only one option which is selected at any time, okay? So here's what I'm going to do. Go to this triangle menu in the upper right corner, okay? Expand the menu, and here is the list of options, how you can your furniture, technology, and office supplies to be displayed. Right now it's a multiple values list. Multiple values because I can select as many as I want. All of them, or two of them, or one of them, or none at all, right? I'm going to do single value list, the first one. That's the radio button option, okay? And you can see that now, for example, I'm showing all sales, right? If I want to see furniture only, I'm going to click on furniture, and it will filter out furniture only. But it unselects the previous one, right? So it's one option at a time. So you can't have two, right? And I can browse between different categories. So this is filtered, ladies and gentlemen. How are we doing? Yay? Okay. For what? For the list of categories? Yeah, I'm going to stick with single value, this radio button. Right? Okay, so let's go ahead and rename this worksheet. Should we call it Sales and Profits by Geography? Because that's what it is, right? Sales and Profit by Geography. Okay, cool. So we're building a lot of charts, right? And next class on Wednesday, we're going to use these charts to put them together and create an interactive dashboard out of them. Okay, so you ain't seen nothing yet. Let me show you another kind of amazing thing. Okay, I can create new variable on my own. Well, you kind of saw it in the previous class. Remember when we converted sales into the sales percent change year over year, and and it's right here. We put it into the list of our measures, right? We created this thing pretty much, right, and put it as one of the measures that we can use on the chart. Like I believe, introduced that into the tooltip, right? Yeah. Let's go ahead and do the same thing. I'm going to show you how, as an example, how to create northern hemisphere versus southern hemisphere division, okay? Because, some countries are in the north, some countries are in the south, right? But there is no natural division right now. It's just a list of countries, right? So, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to create a new worksheet, blank one, okay? And I'm going to take country field and just drop it into the area. It will create a map for me, and each country will have a dot in the middle, okay? No meaning, really. It doesn't mean anything, okay? It just says, here is the place where this country is located. So dot doesn't represent anything other than, here's the country, okay? And I'm going to select, so let's see. I'm going to select countries which are located in the southern hemisphere and group them together, okay? Here's how I'll do it. If you click on the last button, the upper left corner of your map, you'll see a bunch of options, right? And the last one should be lasso selected, right? That means that you can draw any kind of area with this select, right? So I'm going to click on this one, and I'm going to roughly, this is an approximation, not an exact thing, okay? I'm going to start somewhere over here, right? And start drawing the area, okay? Just click it and drag, right? Start drawing the area, something like this, where the equator is approximately, right? This is an approximation. So I selected what appears to be a southern hemisphere, right? With a lasso. And when I unclick the mouse, it stays selected, okay? How are we doing? Yay? Okay, cool. Now let's group them. Okay, so I'm going to position my mouse anywhere on any of these selected countries. Okay, just position the mouse, and you will see that the menu will. So when you stop the mouse, stop moving the mouse, the menu will show up, right, with a bunch of options, and one of the options will have the paperclip image. Do you see that? It says Group Members. You see that? Click on it, and then what it will do, as you notice, it will add a dimension into the dimensions list, right? Right now it says, what does it say? Country group, right? Grouping by the country, okay? I'm going to go ahead and edit it, because really what I selected was just Southern Hemisphere, right? So therefore, the name of this new variable which I introduced should be hemisphere, right? So I'm going to go ahead and right-click on this thing, and is there edit? Yeah, edit group. Go ahead and click on the edit group, okay? So first things first, name of the group, okay? But now it says country group. I'm going to call it hemisphere, okay? Hemisphere. Yeah, oops, sorry. I clicked too soon, so don't hit OK, right? I'm going to edit that again. So I renamed it. Also, you can see that the countries that I selected, they're listed in the first group, right? It says Angola, Argentina, etc., Australia, right? This is Southern Hemisphere, right? And what do you think is other? Northern, right? Let's rename them, okay? So I'm going to click on the first group, rename. I'm going to call it Southern. Okay. And I'm going to click on the other, also rename, and this is Northern. And now I'm done. I'm going to say apply, okay. And now I have a new measure, right? New dimension, which I created, okay? I manipulated things, I created a new measure, and I don't need a map anymore, quite honestly, right? The map was just a stepping stone for me. So if you right-click on the worksheet 5, and go ahead and delete that, it goes away, but my new dimension, hemisphere, stays, okay? So I just created another dimension. How cool is that? The worksheet. I don't need it anymore, right? It was just a listing of countries on the map. I created my new dimension. I'm done, essentially, right? Now I can use this new one in order to slice and dice my sales. For example, let's go to the seasonality and let's see if Southern Hemisphere and Northern Hemisphere, they have the same thing. They have the same seasonality, right? I could slice it by market. I did that before, I believe. When I introduced the market, it was separated into like Africa, South America, Latin America, Asia, right, and all this, Europe, etc. So I'm going to do the same thing with hemisphere. So I'm going to drag that and place it right next door to my sales. It will split the sales between northern countries and southern countries, okay? So what do we see? We see that generally speaking, the southern hemisphere is not very big on sales, generally, right? I can see that this line, it barely goes close to the end, over $100,000, right? While in the northern hemisphere, I have a line that goes well over $400,000, right? So the majority of my sales actually come from the northern hemisphere. That's what my chart tells me, right? Also, remember this seasonality that we discussed. Sales peak in June and then they fall off July, right? That is mostly the feature of the northern hemisphere, right? In the southern hemisphere, there is some sort of pattern, right? But it's much less obvious, right? Not as huge as in the northern part of the globe, right? Okay? Yeah, I'm going to get rid of that. So I did that just to show you, to illustrate that this is another thing that we can do. Okay? All right. Let's see, how much time do we have? We have about 5 minutes. Well, I wanted to show you a couple of other charts, actually. And of course, the big thing that we still have to discuss is dashboard, right? That's actually where the real power of visualization tools like Tableau comes into the play. And you have multiple pictures that tell you different story, and you're bringing them all together, and not just statically, like, hey, this is the picture one, this is picture two. You need to hook them up, so that if you interact with one chart, and for example, select furniture, right, on my global, on the map of sales, right, if I select furniture, then everything else is getting updated. So in other words, whatever I introduce, like line charts or bar charts or whatever, right, they also get filtered out, okay, by my selection in one of the charts. So that's what makes actually visualization tools very powerful. So this is something that we're going to do in the next class. But let's get started with another one, okay? Since we have a few minutes left. So go ahead and start with new worksheet, okay? And this time around, we're going to look at the sales by category. Actually, this is going to be a pretty cool one, right? I don't know if we're going to have enough time to figure it out quite yet, but let's at least try. Okay, so I'm going to pick up sales, okay, and drop it into, I don't know, rows. Nah, you know what? Let me move it to columns. Okay, I want to have horizontal bar chart. Okay, I'm going to slice sales by category. So therefore, go ahead and pick up category and add that to the rows. Okay, so now my sales are sliced by the category. So I'm going to sort them from highest to lowest. So what do I see? You know what? Let me make them bigger somewhere, wider. Okay, and also let me go ahead and add the mark. So I'm going to click on the T button that adds the sales figures to each of my bars, right? So what do I see? I see that most sales come from technology, right? Then furniture is number 2, and the least sellable category in terms of revenue is office supplies. Now let me go ahead and color that by profit, right? I can add the color as another dimension, another variable, right? So I'm going to pick up profit, drop it on the top of color. All right, so what do I see? I see that, what's my most profitable category? Technology. What's the second most profitable? Office supplies. And furniture is not profitable as much as those two, right? But could it be the case that inside any of these categories, some groups of products are more profitable or less profitable than others? Can be the case, right? So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to build a product hierarchy, okay? So what does that mean? Remember when we created the seasonal chart, when we plotted sales versus time. And when we first did it, it was time was aggregated on the level of year, right? It was sales by 2012, 13, 14, 15, right? And then time was expendable, right? So order date. There was a plus sign on the field, right? When you click on the plus sign, it expands down, right? It reveals for you next level of aggregation, which was what? Below the year. No, not quite. It was quarter, I believe, right? Yeah, quarter, and then quarters break into months, and then if we want to break it further, then it breaks into the days. Let's do the same exact thing over here, okay? And here is basically the idea. Probably we're not going to do it today. I'll show you how it's done on Wednesday. We're going to do the same thing. We're going to assume that every product, whatever it is, like for example, specific model of the desk, okay? The desk is, or chair, for example, right? Chair sells in the subcategory chairs, and that by itself belongs in the broader category furniture, right? So we can think of each product as, you know, it fits under multiple levels of the classification, right? So whatever we take computers, for example, it's classified as technology, computers, office, I don't know, work machines or whatever, okay? So each product can be placed into the category of product, okay? So that's what we're going to do on Wednesday, okay? So we're going to work with this bar chart and actually kind of create our own hierarchy of product, just like the sales data, okay? Now, last thing, I'm going to save this, right? But if you're saving it from the scratch, you should always save it as X, TWBX, which means Tableau packaged workbook, okay? So I'm